We suppose the most recent example of an awkward moment today is the 2017 Oscars flub, but we're not going there. Everyone has already joked about how awkward it was, but it wasn't pleasant for the actors. Mahershala Ali said it was hard to feel joy in that moment, in which his team takes an Oscar away from somebody else. Instead, we're going to talk about actors getting caught in far funnier moments with their co-stars. Acting is a hard job at the best of times, but sometimes something odd will come up to make their day a little bit easier. Let us know what your favorites are, and remember to push that red button to subscribe for more awesome videos. Stop right there! Before we go on, can you guess what movie this emoji represents?
You're in my school for the gifted, for mutants.
FAMKE, JANSSEN, James Marsden, and Halle Berry. Nowadays, it's hard to consider it much of a joke, but back when the first X-Men film was released, no one ever thought of a possible cinematic universe. Those that did were shouted down as it being a dumb idea that was too difficult to pull off. Which means that during the filming of X-Men, it was a little awkward when someone on set decided to prank the cast by running up to them in full Spider-Man costume. He appears behind them and a laugh erupts from behind the camera. He raises his hands, backs away, and says he's in the wrong movie. FAMKE JANSSEN, James Marsden, and Halle Berry look at each other somewhat awkwardly and then finally laugh. Then James Marsden chases after the wall crawler. All in all, it was a pretty funny prank. If nothing else, it was just great to see the confused look on the actors' faces. Times have definitely changed though, as now you can't see a superhero movie without a series of references to outside comics and upcoming superhero movies. It's pretty funny to look back at the outtake now, as back then, that was about as close to a live-action Spider-Man in a movie that you could possibly get. James McAvoy and Angelina Jolie. Wanted is one of those comic book movies. You know, one of the ones where people forget it's based on a comic. One thing that no one forgets about the movie is Angelina Jolie looking badass with all of her tattoos on display. While kissing Angelina Jolie might seem like a dream come true for most people, it wasn't the best experience James McAvoy has ever had. In an interview with the Huffington Post all the way back in 2008, McAvoy revealed that it was the first time he and Jolie had ever met. Their first day on set, and they had to lock lips. That's a hell of a first impression to make. Not only are you confronted with one of the most beautiful women in the world, but you've had no time to act opposite her to build chemistry. And you also have to kiss her. She's also in a relationship with Brad Pitt, who you're going to be compared to. Now, we know that actors are all professionals, but you're going to want to at least impress her a little bit. All in all, that's a pretty intimidating first day on the job for James McAvoy. It's a fun story to tell the grandkids, though.
Who are you?
Francis.
Tom Hardy and Emily Browning. While Tom Hardy is widely considered the best actor of his generation, that doesn't mean he sits comfortable and takes the easy roles. The British brute takes the hardest roles he can, and to this day, his most difficult acting job is probably Legend, in which he plays both of the infamous Kray twins. With Ronnie Kray being a very open bisexual in a time in which it was very dangerous to be one in Britain, one interviewer boldly asked Hardy about his sexuality. While it's not a direct quote, the gist of the question was that Hardy has not been as open with his sexuality as Ronnie Kray. Hardy took the reins of the interview, as he often does, and asked him, "Are you asking about my sexuality?" The interviewer stumbled for a moment, but before he could give a good answer as to why, Hardy shut off the interview. Hardy's co-star, Emily Browning, seemed to find the ordeal fairly funny, as did a few of the audience members. As for the reporter, it was far from his best day on the job. It's clear that Hardy would rather talk about the film than about his own personal life.
I swear on my life, I will get you out of this. You will walk away and never ever—
Your life!
Scarlett Johansson and Robert Downey Jr. During the Avengers UK press conference, there were a wide array of questions asked. While in true press conference fashion, they mostly ended up being variations of the exact same question, Scarlett Johansson was asked a question she's been asked too many times before. The reporter asked her if she had any specific diet or workout routine to stay in shape and fit into her costume as Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson had a very clear, bemused look on her face, so Robert Downey Jr. quickly leaned in and made a joke of it. He said that in his experience, people are more interested in asking Scarlett Johansson about her diet than any answer he could ever give. While clearly annoyed, she answers the question, saying that doing a lot of stunt work forces her to stay healthy, and that she keeps slim by eating a lot of vegetables. That didn't stop her from going on a little bit of a rant at the beginning. She complained that she always gets the rabbit food questions, while Robert Downey Jr. gets to answer the interesting existential questions. She leans back, still clearly annoyed, and RDJ can't help but laugh again. It was a pretty uncomfortable moment, but we can understand her frustration, seeing as she wants her craft to be taken seriously, but gets stuck answering the same tired questions over and over again. Tom Cruise and Sofia Boutella. The Mummy was released earlier this year, while the attempt at reviving the classic Universal Monsters universe has garnered negative reviews. We can't fault its star power. It stars Tom Cruise, a man generally known for unusual behavior, and actor and dancer Sofia Boutella, best known for her role as Jayla in Star Trek Beyond. Surprisingly, the awkward moment on set didn't come from Tom Cruise, but from the director Alex Kurtzman. This was only Kurtzman's second film, so he's not particularly experienced directing yet. So while shooting the movie, he insisted that it would be a great idea for Sofia Boutella to lick Tom Cruise's face. While that's been seen in movies time and time again, it certainly makes for an awkward moment between the two actors. Neither expected it to happen, neither particularly wanted it to happen. To make matters worse, it happened to be the only day that Sofia Boutella's father was on set to watch his baby girl in action. It was a pretty embarrassing situation for everyone involved. We can't say we'd particularly want to lick Tom Cruise's face in front of our parents either. But hey, at least Alex Kurtzman got the shot he wanted.
Passenger. Jim Preston.
Aurora Lane.
Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence caused controversy on The Graham Norton Show when promoting Passengers. She talked about the filming of The Hunger Games, in which she revealed that she sat and scratched her butt on sacred Hawaiian rocks. She managed to accidentally dislodge one and send it tumbling down the hill they were on. Apart from nearly crushing a man, the native Hawaiian villagers panicked, believing it to be a curse. At the time, Jennifer Lawrence was still pretty young and didn't understand the cultural significance of those rocks. This meant that she found the situation pretty funny. While she and everyone else laughed at the ordeal, Chris Pratt, her co-star, could be seen sitting next to her. He wasn't laughing at all. Instead, he looks over with an awkward, uncomfortable expression. Chris Pratt himself had lived in Hawaii for many years and no doubt understood the people's panic a little bit more. Jennifer Lawrence apologized for the ordeal following some harsh criticism online, and we can't levy too much criticism at her. After all, accidents happen and she seems to have learned from the whole ordeal. That doesn't make the interview any less awkward, however, as the image of everyone laughing except Chris Pratt is just cringe-inducing.
Wow.
Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. While the now iconic upside-down kiss has become one of the most iconic moments in superhero history, it was pretty uncomfortable to shoot. In fact, Tobey Maguire just plain didn't want to do it. While it might have looked romantic on camera, poor Tobey was hung upside down with the blood quickly rushing to his head. He was feeling lightheaded for sure, but that wasn't the worst of it. The entire scene was shot for rain, which meant that the whole time he had water running down his chin and into his nose. All in all, not the best experience. As a matter of fact, in a 2002 interview, Tobey Maguire said he was gasping for air out of the corner of Kirsten's mouth. His head was throbbing, his nose was stinging, and he was gasping for air. It doesn't sound like much fun at all. After all, who really enjoys getting waterboarded? In spite of all that, the kiss still became iconic thanks to people not knowing how awful it was on set. It won MTV's Best Kiss Award, and we can safely say that it's probably the most iconic moment from a Spider-Man film ever. So, it's not all bad. GERARD Butler, Emmy Rossum, and Patrick Wilson. The adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera wasn't the smoothest transition from stage to screen. Outside of being in development hell since 1989, when it finally arrived, the Phantom was played by a man with only 6 months' worth of vocal training. Needless to say, GERARD Butler was not the best casting choice. He was also considerably older than Emmy Rossum, who played Christine opposite him. While the characters are supposed to have an age difference, the actors were still a little uncomfortable with the way they had to interact with each other. GERARD Butler, who was around 30 at the time, had to caress the neck and stomach of Rossum, who was only 18. It didn't help that Patrick Wilson, who played her main love interest, Raoul, was also of similar age to Butler. This meant that over the course of the film, Emily Rossum had to kiss 2 men that were almost twice her age. In another awkward turn of events, Patrick Wilson's very next role was in Hard Candy, which arguably made him more famous. In the movie, he played a man who had been abducting teenage girls. That just adds a whole new layer of awkward.
Come on. Rabbity.
Emma Watson, Daniel Radcliffe, and Rupert Grint. Over the course of filming Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, Emma Watson had to kiss both of her longtime co-stars. While Emma and Rupert knew that it was a long time coming for a few years, it didn't make the situation any less weird for Emma. Having grown up working alongside Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert Grint, she had developed a very platonic relationship with both of them. She had to kiss Daniel Radcliffe first, which she described as an awful experience. Daniel Radcliffe himself said he was taken aback at how full-on she was with the kiss, presumably because she wanted to get it done with in one take. Kissing Rupert Grint was a little easier though, considering that it was a well-known fact that their characters would eventually marry by the book's conclusion. So at least she got a few years to prep emotionally for the awkward scene. When asked who was better, she said it was impossible to say because kissing both of them just felt so wrong to her. As for her co-stars, Radcliffe said he couldn't really complain, and Grint thought it was fairly nice. Boys will be boys.
I'm a mutt.
And you're a mutt.
Margot Robbie and Leonardo DiCaprio. It can be pretty nerve-wracking having to perform a nude scene, especially when the shot isn't going to make use of a body double at all. Margot Robbie was understandably pretty nervous about performing the scene in front of not only Martin Scorsese, but Leonardo DiCaprio. While Leo's not viewed as the young heartthrob he was in his Titanic days, the thought of getting naked in front of him is pretty imposing, especially when this is your first feature film alongside a well-known actor, who you've no doubt seen in movies as a kid. So Margot Robbie did what any sane person would do and got a little bit drunk before shooting the scene. Apparently, it calmed her nerves and made it a lot easier for her to perform the understandably intimidating scene. The scene is now one of the most famous in the movie, and the role is no doubt what broke Margot Robbie through to the mainstream. Without this role and that scene, we probably never would have seen Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. So at the very least, we can thank Martin Scorsese for bringing her to the mainstream. Hopefully, if she ends up doing any other adult scenes, she won't be quite so shy that she has to get drunk. That's all we've got time for today. What are your favorites? Let us know in the comments section below and tell us if there is anything you want to see us do in the future. The answer to our emoji question was, well, did you get it right? Leave a comment and let us know. And as always, subscribe to Screen Rant for more content just like this on our playlist. Thanks for watching.